You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman, exclusively on ABC Amber TV.
Alert, alert, alert. This is Dr. Martin Mungwa, Secretary of State for Communication and IT for the government of Southern Cameroon, Sambazonia. I come for give a rundown of events the way it happened for the home front and for alert everybody of the new measures where criminal La Republique du Cameroon they try to play over with. First of all, I want to congratulate all Ambazonians and all members of the Ambazonian State Army. We the win. I want to repeat them. We the win. We did now on the diplomatic front and we did do very, very well. This war, now war for win. And we don't already beat La Republique du Cameroon. I want to make it very clear for una before I tell una the message I want to give for una today. The reason be say, make people they not make small mistakes then. Mistakes where you will hurt themselves, you will hurt their families because we did get to the finish line very, very soon. When I remember say some time ago, I be tell when I the news about this picking the way La Republique du Cameroon can fool them, take them, send the one go give them work, take them for Kudaba, train them, bring them back so that I mean they try for track with people they for kill them. And of course, it be end up with the fact say La Republique fail. They discover said those measures they need to work because we'll be able for pick up and we intelligence be very, very good for pick up this information. And it will be an extension of what will be happen for Ebekpo for monthly when they will go kill these people them using the people for DDR. Now, what it don't happen now being I say things them of course work and they try for exploit with ex-fighters and those that when they get issues them probably get issues with their commanders they try for use mad people them when they go for off licenses this one they go disguise the mad people the beggars and then you go to try for harass people when they try for ask you some money you know give them then they'll talk something where you'll probably vex say something and then they'll come pick you up. Okay, so this one are the tactics when they use it now. So we're gonna be very, very careful. Those the when they check say their lives have been as for even to go for off license. When I be prepared for me this so-called mad people when I beg us at the same time. But I want to tell when I say this one are these guys agents for La Republique and I be soldiers that they do this kind of thing. The other people that they try for exploit them now backriders where they probably get disagreement or they will get disagreement with their commanders them. So they try for exploit them so that mean they try for trace the path the way with soldiers that they take them. And this one be very important. And I want people to understand. These people where when I be disgruntled when I commanders, when I feel say when I'll sell the future for Ambazonia because of that anger, when I go on a very dangerous path because neither Ambazonia or La Republique will ever accept una. They will kill una at the end of the day. When they don't take that information from you, they will kill you. This is not a new thing. If it happened for Eritrea, it happened for East Timor. All those Eritreans, when they begin to collaborate with Ethiopian government, when Eritrea get independence, they become stateless. Wherever they go, they become criminals. So I just try for warn all Ambazonians and today. If you get a personal issue with any of your commanders, that one not give the right to go sell Ambazonia now just because of your little heart where it don't break. The future for Ambazonia, it be far more important than our own personal agonies. We not define them because we not get problem with neighbor. We define them because the future of Ambazonia be very important. The same thing will happen for East Timor. Those East Timorians, when they need to collaborate with Indonesian government, when they get independence, they become stateless. They don't get any place to go. I want to make it very clear for all these backriders where when I don't decide take money for La Republique for go show so-called places where the Ambazonian State Army day. When I play a very, very dangerous game. And this game, when I know a winner. When I know a winner, when I lose, La Republique will lose and when a family will lose. So we wanna be very, very careful. And I tell when I get for be situational awareness. Look, we don't reach for the time now where I want to make me Ambazonian population know say this war with the winner. We there on the winning path. So many people do not make stupid mistakes the way you put themselves and their families in jeopardy. Because very soon, when I start see how things they become very, very clear. La Republique be on knees. La Republique, they don't know what to do. They don't categorize La Republique, say that the most polluted country on earth, number one polluted country on earth. Why? Because of negligence. Why? Because they don't get money. Because they on their knees. This one of the people where we get for even try for be together with. So all these people, when the backriders or disgruntled people, or these people did go for off license for night, or they try for create unnecessary problems for themselves. Muna be on the watch out, because the future of Ambazonia it be assured, and your personal grievances enough it come between you and Ambazonia. So I'd give out this warning, and me man not talk say nobody don't hear, because I be sure say everybody will hear this message where they send it out today. Okay, so once again I want to congratulate all those fighters where they don't stay for the belief say Ambazonia deserve a place in the world. And also Ambazonians the way they don't make sure say they not fall the trap for La Republique du Cameroon. Thank you. And
Ambazonians, I woke up this morning really angry. As I looked, I saw green, red, yellow. I was wondering what kind of country is this, which says that red is its middle color, cuts across from the top to the bottom. That means it's a bloody country. That country will ever know blood as its middle name. That country is a country of hyenas, blood suckers, blood-thirsty, blood drinkers, vampires. The worst thing that happened in our history was for us to unite gentle people, civilized people of the southern Cameroon and Ambazonia to go and join animals, wild animals who cannot have a conversation, with anyone, who don't have friends, who don't know what the term brother or sister means. We ask a question, they slaughter us like pigs, they kill us anyhow with total impunity. They think it's their right to kill us. I was angry this morning. Are you angry? Are you wondering how long this will go? Why this must end? Or you are worried about some little things between you and somebody here and there? Are you going to channel this anger? Are you going to draft? Are you coming for the federal draft? Are you coming to empower us to do whatever is humanly possible to separate ourselves from these barbarians? Let me say this. If you refuse to draft for Ambazonia, it is a draft for La Republic. That's the truth. It means you have drafted for La Republic. If you don't empower us to fight this monster, these animals who don't even qualify to be our neighbors, they don't qualify. They don't qualify to be our neighbors, talk less of brothers, deceivers. They are. The best place that these people belong is to, if it were possible, if I were the God Almighty, I will roll them up together like a carpet and throw them in the abyss. That is where La Republique du Cameroon belongs, and all of them. Animals, not fit to exist in the kingdom of humans. Talk less of being our neighbors. And some people say we should cohabit with them. Are you kidding me? If you don't draft for the federal government, if you don't draft now to empower us to fight this fight to the end, your excuses notwithstanding, you have drafted for La Republique du Cameroon. You have empowered them to kill us and take us as their slaves forever. You see, they are ambassadors of evil coming to our zone, to the Midland zone, to Abakwa. Because whatsoever Abakwa says, that is what goes in Ambazonia. See them coming. So what will you do this Saturday for the draft? What will you do? Can somebody tell me what you propose to do? To stay home, to withhold your currency, your money, your draft, to find some reasonable excuse, which will be finally unreasonable. This Saturday, April 2024, all roads lead to the Midland draft. If you are not coming or you are not drafting, you have done evil to yourself, to your people, and to generations to come. Because this is the assignment of our lifetime. The assignment is to draft. This is Ambazonia versus the world. Draft. Your might is needed, like those of our ASA. For they are betting this with their lives. Let us bet with our substance. I'm waiting for you. The time is 8 p.m. Ambazonia time. This Saturday, April 2024. Be there. Share this video. Share this audio. Invite somebody. Talk to somebody to think again. Talk to somebody who wants to stay aloof, who is to draft and is thinking not to draft. Tell him that we either draft for our people or we draft for La Republique. Let them make a choice. God bless you, for I and my family will draft, whether it is rain or shine, whether it is convenient or inconvenient. There is a war to fight. There is a victory to win. This is it. Thank you for coming. God bless you.
The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities, we will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft lies the power to.
Good evening, fellow Amazonians at the home front. Patriotic salute to all our restoration fighters, all our ASA forces, and greetings to fellow Amazonians across the world who have joined us this evening, Friday, to watch the horizon, the voice of the Amazonian woman. Yes, we are staying the course.
Liberate Amazonia. The number one most important thing for every Amazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft lies the power to liberate Amazonia.
Welcome back. Greetings once again to all our viewers. Good evening to all those at the home front. And thank you to all those who are always contributing, giving feedback, and commenting on our program. Thanks you to all our viewers across the world who are joining us on the horizon. Like I was saying, yes, this is the horizon, the voice of the Amazonian woman, and we are staying the course. Welcome to our program. And today we will be talking about the French ambassador to La République du Cameroon visit to Bamenda and the Savannah region, to and also we're talking about terrorism summit going on in Nigeria, hosted by the current president of Nigeria, Tinubu, and also we just watch the video talking about the draft, and we would round up about drafting for Amazonia. The draft is no longer news to us. We know what that is, and the audios and the initial messages have given some light into the draft, but we would have a quick conversation around the draft. So joining me today is the one and only Dr. Lobati, who'll be joining me to talk about these topics for today. Welcome, Dr. Lobati. Welcome to the Horizon once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be present with you, Lady Casey, in this program. I'm also very happy with all our viewers all over the world who are listening to us. We want to actually unpack and clarify to our people what is happening, like when they see the French ambassador coming to Bamenda and claiming that they're going to help develop the town, or things around the continent, as you talked about, where Tinubu is being used to say there's an African initiative to fight terrorism on the continent. We would like to help our people to understand the facts of what is truly happening. And I hope you will
Thank
be
you.
appreciative of the information. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That's a very nice executive summary of our discussion today that you just put there. Thank you so much. And we are going straight into our discussion for today. And I would just want you to throw more light. What is the background? That what is giving the French ambassador to La République du Cameroon the power, the authority to go to Bamenda, promising development and reconstruction, and making all this promise? Why? How do an ambassador to a nation is concerned to that extent of making visits? We know other people have visited La République du Cameroon, went to check Amazonia, but they were never allowed into Amazonian territory. but the French ambassador is going there making promises, gathering the people. What is the background um, information, what is giving him that power to feel like he can go and decide what happens in that territory?
Okay, so one thing I would like our people to know is that that ambassador is a military general within the French country. So that is a general of the French army who was sent to Cameroon and being called an ambassador. The other thing that our people need to know is that the true political leadership in not only La République du Cameroon but all French controlled territories are the French. That means that they have a dark skinned individual called, in this case, Biya, called president, but above him is the ambassador of France on the ground, who is truly controlling everything going on in the territory. And they are subservient, of course, submit all the information to the French president. Now, what happened is that, remember that when the whites came to Africa, and always when they come to Africa, is for our resources to come and get the uh, resources that are in the ground or that are in the territory. They don't care about the people. They actually don't mind killing the people. What they want are the natural resources. So you remember during the time of slavery, they came to take the people to use them to work in inhuman conditions in their home countries, which are very cold. Later on, they came back during the time of colonization to capture African territories, to extract resources for developing industries and factories that were mechanized in Europe and across the world or the Western world. And of course, you had the wars in between. And later on, when they claimed that they were giving us independence, they never truly wanted to give us independence, and they have never ever given any true independence. They designed it in such a way that you will have a dark skinned person in the territory being called a president, but behind the scenes, it's the same individuals that came in to take our people as slaves, the same individuals that came to take our territory as colonies, coming back to get the resources. So, what the French did was that in 1959, after imposing Biya upon La République du Cameroun and removing Mbida, then they signed an agreement with Ahijo. I think this has been read in some other programs here before. It's a 6 point agreement where the French have absolute total control of every aspect of the Cameroonian life: financial, education, cultural, and political, everything. So Ahijo signed that and submitted himself to the control of the French government. One of those agreements is that if there is any turmoil in the land, and the president who is under the control of France is unable to take control, or his family is at risk, the French ambassador can step in and take control of the country, as well as request for French military intervention in that country to stabilize the country. So basically, this French ambassador was doing what they have always been doing. It's just that people do not know. Now, in Cameroon right now, you know that after Ahijo, who was the first president of Cameroon, was maneuvered, they tricked him by deceiving him that he was very ill to be president, because he started trying to be a little bit independent in some of his ideas and plans for the future of Cameroon. They outmaneuvered him and brought Biya, who said that he is Mitterrand's best pupil, which means he is submissive to Mitterrand, who was a French president. And that's what he has always been. So Biya has been under the influence of the French, and you know that he's very old. He was supposedly born February 13 of 1933. So you can imagine that right now he's supposedly 92 years old. And basically, he's weak and bedridden. He cannot go places. He hides in his village in Vomeka. And I saw how ministers were going there to visit him in his house to give the impression that he's still alive and not dead. Basically, he's incompetent, unable to do anything. Now, in this advanced age, people are saying that Biya is not able to do anything. Even when he took power at the age of 49, Biya was incompetent to do anything because he was under the control of the French, represented on the ground by the French ambassador. So every activity that they do, the president, the supposed puppet president is doing has to be approved by France. Even changing the cabinet has to be approved by France before they change any member of government. And locally, this is sanctioned and monitored by the French ambassador. And so basically, that's what has happened. Recently, what happened was that in the Sahel region, that means in the Muslim nations just south of the Sahara and north of like our territory, which is the green savanna regions of Africa, most of the Muslims who are homogeneous have discovered that they are under abject poverty and suffering because of the French. And they have been rejecting the control of the French. And the French are trying to make sure that they maintain control. They sometimes pretend to have left, and they're trying to not let Central Africa go the way of the Sahel region. And that's why they sent this military general to be the ambassador of France in Cameroon. And basically, he's the one who monitors all the military activities of La République du Cameroun. The Cameroonian military is a French force being used to intimidate the people and force them to submit under the control of the French. And so when this ambassador was going to come to Bamenda, he was just doing what they do behind the scenes. So he went to Bamenda and claimed that they were going to give 30 billion to help develop the town. Now, I want people to think about this for a moment. If you remember, um, annually, La République used to claim that they started with about 4,000 billion francs a year, then they advanced to almost 6-7 billion francs a year, and they divided in different to support the government, and they divided for the different regions amounts of money. The southern region, where Bia is from, received the most, almost 200 billion for developments in the southern region. At the time, they claimed that they're building the Kribi seaport. They wanted to build an international airport in Kribi. They wanted to build a modern city in Kribi that will basically be rival and beat Douala and all the rest, which the money was all embezzled by Motaze, who is the Minister of Finance. Anyway, I want us to remember that during that time, they used to give annually for the Northwest region about 50 billion. So they gave 200 billion to the southern region, which is the least populated region of Cameroon. And to the northwest region, they would give about 50 billion. And to the southwest, they would give something less than 50 billion. So I want to put it in perspective. If annually, before 2016, 2017, when this problem broke out, the Northwest region was getting 50 billion francs CFA for developmental projects. And you notice that nothing tangible happened on the ground to meet the needs of the people. Then you can put in the right perspective what the so-called 30 billion that this French ambassador is putting out there can do for our people. Literally nothing. So I want our people to know that what he is mentioning there is literally nothing, and it cannot accomplish anything towards our development. It's just a sign to give the impression that they're doing something good. They're trying to, promote development in our region, but it's not going to meet the needs of the people. And the person that he came with, this lady Cortez, as she calls herself, who is from Bangangte, and the people from Bangangte are relations to the people of Bamum Fumban, and an extract from them entered and lived in by Balide de Bawum. She is from Bangangte. She is supposed to be the Minister of Urban Development. What has she done in Yaoundé? Not much. She built a so-called monument where painted in white, which is called "I Love Cameroon, My Country." And then she went to the north. When the people were complaining, he said, "What was there before? When you say you don't have infrastructures, what was there before?" And she was challenged by people explaining what was during the days of Ahijo, which have all been dismantled. That is the lady who is supposed to supervise the project, and she used that so-called monument in Yaoundé to embezzle a lot of money. So if you give that 300 billion to her, she will probably come to the Liberty Square and put up something similar and claim that she developed Bamenda and embezzle the rest of the money. That's just what I would like to share right now about who this so-called ambassador is. He's a military officer who supervises the government of La République du Cameroon, And even after they finally acknowledge that Biya is finished and gone, either by dying or otherwise, if they put anybody else, regardless of their age, whether it's Biya's son or whoever, as long as that cooperation agreement between the French and the Republic is in force, the French ambassador is a true ruler of Cameroon. That's what happened.
Whoa. Wow. That is very interesting. Now given all this that you have explained, and yeah, we understand and we already know the nature of La Republique. They only talk, they do nothing, and we know the promises that have been made to the people of Amazonian territory, which we thank God we have come to realize that they can only speak and only make promises, and it will have no bearing on us. And that's why we need to continue to stand for ourselves, we continue to fight for our complete liberation, because there's no hope even in federation with La Republique. And we have seen that time and time again. We've talked about this on ABC Amber TV on several different dimensions and different programs. So this is just more layer to the fact that we need to stand up as a people and fight for our complete and total liberation from La République du Cameroon, and in extension France, as we understand and we're supposed to have understood by now. And I just want to take it further into our liberation struggle in relation to France, or French ambassador to La République being the ruler of of French Cameroon. How do you think the power exerted by France in French Cameroon has affected the French Cameroon attitude towards our liberation struggle, or their approach towards our
Okay.
liberation, towards our fight? Because we did have we had a dialogue, a mediation process, which they pull out from it last minute. And do you think that was also part of the reason that French Cameroon, La République du Cameroon, pull out, or has make their attitude to have a dialogue to resolve this conflict amicably?
Correct. The French are the ones controlling everything behind the scenes. The Yaoundé so-called regime only acts on instructions from Paris. That is one of the reasons why you see La République has been pushing for so-called decentralization. And this ambassador goes to Bamenda and again puts out the word decentralization, forcing it down our throat. And the situation is that we have brought it in previous programs that when the British left us and claimed that they were giving our independence, behind the scenes again there was an exchange of money, £2 billion between the British and the French for British investments in southern Cameroons. And because of that, Charles de Gaulle, who was the president of France at the time, said British Cameroon was a small gift from the Queen of England who just died. So the French regard us as their property. They think that we belong to them. And so they use French Cameroon to assimilate us, transforms our thought, and make us to think like them and become part of them, which, as Biya confessed in Paris, unfortunately, in spite of all attempts, it failed. They never succeeded to truly change our English speaking way of thinking, our Anglophone mindset, our way of doing things. And so the French now, I believe personally, are the ones who promoted all this warfare that has happened since 2017, burning of our villages and killing our people and dispersing them into French Cameroon so that they will be driven, that all our structures in English Cameroon should be destroyed, the schools, all the thriving institutions, destroy them, push our people to go into East Cameroon, let them buy land and live over there, burn our villages, so that we will not have the power and we will remain under their control. But that's what is actually going on. Now, in French speaking Muslim nations like Senegal, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, again, I call them a homogeneous society because most of them are Muslim. They don't drink any alcohol, or they don't drink alcohol, and they think like one man. And so what happened, as soon as they identified France as the problem and not the local puppet, and decided to go after French businesses, the French discovered that they have been outed and had to back off. That happened recently in Senegal. So what happened in Senegal, they were going to use Macky Sall, who is their puppet, to perpetuate himself one more term, the third term that was not according to their constitution, and then postpone elections that were supposed to take place in February to December so that they have enough time to fake it and claim that again he has won, like they did in Ivory Coast, where they imposed Ouattara on them and killed people who were supposed to run. But as soon as and they locked the opposition, the opponents, and as soon as the people from Senegal discovered that it was the French, they went after French businesses, started destroying them, burning them, and Paris had to act to preserve their honor and also their businesses. So they literally asked Macky Sall to release those one of those guys who was allowed to inscribe in the presidential election and to bring forward the election from December. So an election that was supposed to take place in February took place in March, and as you know the result, that guy won. They have multiple terms. They usually fake multiple political parties and claim that those who have the majority will run a second term. But that guy won over 50%, and that the story was over. And so now he came, and then the real opposition leader was who was locked up is the prime minister of Mali, of Senegal. And those two are now working on making changes in Mali and in Senegal. And don't be surprised, the French will still work behind the scenes to compromise them, co-opt them, bribe them, do different things possible to compromise them. In the case of La République du Cameroon, the fact that we are English speaking and then the Francophones are French speaking, and then we have a substantial Muslim population in the north. Whenever the English speaking bring up genuine political grievances, expressed grievances like marginalization, they give the impression that the French speaking are different from the English speaking, and it is the English speaking who are causing problems. So the French speaking, the Francophones, even though they suffer as well, they think that, oh, it is just those Anglophones causing problems, and they continue living under this subjugation. And then also, they have made sure that the Cameroonian population drinks a lot of alcohol. Cameroon alone spends over 800 to 900 billion francs every year in alcohol consumption. Now, I mentioned that their budget for the government to run the federal institutions of Cameroon is about 6,000 billion. So you can imagine 900 billion is a heavy sum of money. So the people are drowned in drinking 3 export guineas and all of those things, and they stay in off licenses drunk, just talking and babbling, and they use soccer and other entertainments to take away their minds so they don't focus and think about their suffering and see what they can do about it. That is the problem in Cameroon. When the English speaking speak, they make the French speaking to think, those are those English people causing trouble. Then they get the non Muslim ones in the south to drink and get drunk so they don't have to think, so they don't have to act. And then the Muslims in the north are fewer, not they're only about 18%. They cannot really do much. They only hope that as soon as Biya gets off, then they will try to come back in power. That is what is going on in Cameroon. If we were homogeneous as in Senegal, Mali, and the rest, I believe that the change would have occurred sooner.
Wow. Well, thank you for such educative explanation. And looking at this angle that you've taken it about being homogeneous as a country, um, and let's just take the conversation a bit, deeper. Given what is happening with French Cameroon, and they are only looking to blame when we stand up for change, when we stand up for a better, you know, for anything better in terms of living in our dignity and to live in our pride as a nation, and they think we are the troublemakers. And given the system that they have created for them to eat roasted fish and drink and get drunk, and not realizing that their condition, or the condition of the quality of their lives is highly affected by the fact that um, La République du Cameroon is being governed, and governed in the way it is being governed by the French, um, by France, and through their ambassador to La République du Cameroon. As Amazonians and us, that we are focusing on our fights, and we have to encounter some of these people in our communities. When I mean these people, I mean people from La République du Cameroon. How do you think, with this knowledge, we supposed to relate or approach or accommodate them in our territories?
Well, that is very interesting. You notice that we have been struggling throughout the years to live with what we call our Francophone brothers, even within Ambazonia. Remember that in the late 1950s, throughout the 70s, the 60s, and the early 70s, that culminated with the killing of Eneshwandi in the public square in Bafoussam. The French were killing any Francophone individuals that were trying to advocate for the same thing that we Ambazonians are advocating for true sovereignty. So the French perpetuated genocide in Bamileke land and Bassat land, where they killed over 500,000 Bamilikes, burned their villages. This is a practice that the French do. What La République did to us, as I said, is advised and guided by the French. So they did to us the same thing they did to the Bamilikes. They burned their villages and roasted and killed many of them, cut their heads and hung them on poles on the on the side of the road to intimidate the population not to object or stand up against them, which is what they have done in Amazonia. And so basically, the French did that to control the Francophone population, like the UPC, that was trying to advocate for genuine independence and keep Ahijo in power. And unfortunately, they succeeded to kill a lot of those opponents. You know about Felix Mumie, who was poisoned in Switzerland, the Bishop Ndongmo, who was bribed and basically sent out to Canada and other places, and they succeeded to capture Eneswandi, who was killed in Bafoussam. But many of these Francophones ran to our area for safety, and we received them and called them our brothers. We were generous. We put them among us. We allowed them to operate businesses. We know them as the Bamli case, for example, say around the Bamenda. You can go to the southwest region, you will find them, either Bamli case or people from Bassa. Those are the Anglophonized Francophones that immigrated to our land. But they have turned out to be traitors. They have turned out to rather donate money. Literally, when the Ambazonian struggle erupted, they contributed money and gave La Republic government to come and burn our homes and kill our people. So they are not really people that we can look at as our brothers, in the sense that if you know that somebody wants to kill you and totally destroy you, you cannot continue to call them your brothers and your friends as they kill you and your children to eliminate your family. These people are not our people. They are just people who came there, just like Felix Mbawu, who is, again, I talk about the Bangangte woman, Cortes, and the people from Bawum. Felix Mbawu is from Bangangte. In Bamenda, he's the one who is supposed to be the junior minister of, I think, now in charge of the Commonwealth or in the foreign ministry. And he's supposed to be from Old Town Bamenda, but that is a Bamileke. There are so many extracts of them that are among us, calling themselves Anglophones because they speak English and because they went to Anglophone schools, but they are not of us and they are against us. So I think, first of all, the most important thing is they said knowledge is power. So if you know the truth of what is going on, then you will eventually figure out how to protect yourself. And if you don't know what's going on, they will kill you in your sleep, in your ignorance. And that's what they want. They want to keep us in ignorance so that they totally eliminate us. They're waiting out the death of our fathers and having pushed our people to East Cameroon and pushed them abroad and preventing them from coming back, hoping that the few that are on the land will be manipulated as they continue to kill them. And then at the end, they will continue to exploit the land and use it. They don't care about our people. Even the military that is being used to kill our people, they don't care about them. These are the same Okada boys that were struggling for survival in the community, who were recruited to join the armies, made to run around and train how to shoot guns, run, climb some hills, do some body exercises, and they were given guns to come and kill us, to subjugate us under French control. So when we now in self-defense try to protect ourselves and the military enters our homes and trying to kill our people, and somebody in self-defense kills them, what has happened is an African has killed another African. So they killed Amazonians, Ambazonia killed that military that is being used to perpetuate French control. And what happened is that Africans killed other Africans, and the French are happy because they have full control to continue exploiting the resources. We need to know this. Even the military needs to know this, because if they know that, they wouldn't be killing their brothers. The Beti Bulus who control them, what they did is they realized that if they send Beti Bulus among Ambazonians, they will be killed. So they elevate them to high ranking military officers and keep them in the offices in Yaoundé to be giving instructions to junior people that are from either among us Amazonians or Western region or other inferior parts of La Republique to be the ones that go and get killed. So that the people from Bia's region, the Bulus and the Betis, they're the ones being called the generals and the colonels who sit in the office and give instructions. They don't go and creep in the bush or sleep in the grass like those that are being killed. That's what is going on.
Thank you. And if anyone has been watching ABC, the program that was playing before we came on the horizon, there was a very with the undaunted. There was a great explanation of what our people as a community from a defense team leader, which is I thought was so insightful. And if you are not watching ABC and you're home front, I'm not sure how you understand, what how to survive, because there are always tips on survival at home front and in the face of gun battles and living amongst blacklegs and traitors, like we are just talking about here. These people from French Cameroon who have come into our territory and become and learn our Anglo-Saxons way, went to our Anglo-Saxon school and have outrightly become both abroad, both in the diaspora and at home, become very, very wicked traitors. And all they have tried to do is to sabotage and destroy and every effort that we have made towards our liberation, both in the diplomatic front and in self-defense. And this is why, like Dr. Lobati said, knowledge is power. You must understand that it's not everybody that says Ambazonia, Ambazonia is Ambazonia, or nobody that said I'm Southern Cameroon, I'm from Bamenda, I'm from Boya, I'm from Victoria, I'm from Kumba is from that area. I know a lot of people from Kumba in particular who are not Ambazonians, and they have made it very clear they don't support anything we do towards our liberation struggle. And you cannot take that I'm a Kumba boy statement and conclude that is one of us. It is not always the case. There are so many places in Kumba where you will hardly hear anybody speak English, Pidgin, or Bafo on the streets or any Amazonian languages because the area has been francophonized. And this is the case with many, many towns and cities in Amazonia. Like Dr. Lobati explained, they want to burn our villages, kill our peoples. They want to chase all of us abroad so they can take over our land. But they have already failed. They have
Yes.
already failed. Until Amazonia is free from generation to generation, we will keep fighting. Um,
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Lobati. And on this aspect of our conversation, do you have any more stuff to say before we move to the anti-terrorism forum hosted by Tinubu in Africa, so as we move to our next subject?
I think that the two topics are very well related to each other, because
Yes.
again you will realize the hand of the so-called Western democracies or Western powers. They try to sneak in like chameleons, like snake in the grass in different ways, trying to use the puppets that they have put in place to control our people, and the purpose is to control them and then carry out the resources. In Nigeria, what actually happened, there is a report that came out that when Nigeria was getting its independence, the British had the northern Muslims under their control and were afraid of the southern groups of the Yorubas and the Igbos. Therefore, what the British did, they deliberately made sure that they rigged the elections in favor of the Muslims in the north. And then they also made sure that most of the military academies were stationed in the north so that the north would be trained to fight with the gun and they would make them have the power. And then they also made sure that the southern groups, the Igbos and the Yorubas, who were very educated and were challenging to the British, were divided. And they also ensured that one of these groups will collaborate with the North, which happened to be the Yorubas. That's why you realize that the Yorubas collaborate with the Muslims and they sideline the Igbos. And so, if you look at the Nigerian presidents who have come to power, it's been like Obasanjo and this Tinubu, they are Yorubas, and they will do everything to make sure that an Igbo does not come to power. That was deliberately done by the British in order to control Nigeria, which nobody talks about and nobody thinks about, and they think that Nigeria is independent. And this, in this video, the British officer who is still alive, who oversaw the rigging of the election during the time of independence around 1960 to make sure that the North won the elections by rigging, not by genuine count, is recounted in that video. And that is what is happening. So I'm trying to say that just like the French are doing in Francophone Africa, the British also did in what is called English speaking Africa. The Kenyans have their own stories and so many other different groups. So now, when they come back now and use Tinubu and Ghana and Togo to say that they are trying to put forward an African solution to terrorism to solve the problem in Africa, it is still the same faces that are camouflaging and using the puppets they have put on the ground, pretending to solve terrorism. We can explore that further. I just wanted to say that as we transition.
Wow, thank you, thank you. So now we're talking about terrorism. We've heard terrorism in the past 15 years, I would say, since 9/11, for example, in the US. Terrorism, anti-terrorism, everything has been going on. It's been the talk of the day since then. And it's been, there is a global view of terrorism or terrorist activities or definition, because what I have seen the American, the British call as terrorism, and when is the same thing they would do in other countries, and they will call it self-defense or they will call it protecting national interest. So we've seen this double standards in terms of terrorism. And what do you have to say about that?
So before we go into that, let's define what terrorism is. Now, terrorism, in its broadest sense, is the use of intentional violence and fear upon a peace loving population to achieve political and ideological aims. That means you use fear to intimidate a peace loving people in order to subjugate them to your own goals. And if you look at the situation with Ambazonia, you never saw that the Ambazonians got up and picked up arms to fight La Republique for their independence. All throughout the history, even when our forefathers saw the blatant assimilation in 1984, when Biya changed the name of the so-called United Republic of Cameroon back to La République du Cameroun, Fonchas and the others, and Munas, they said our children will fight this fight, and Dinka alone was fighting. And when things came to a head in 2017, our people carried peace plans in their hands and went out marching, expressing the same political grievances which had been recounted during the 1990s when Frundi came to power, that they don't like to be marginalized, they want to be given freedom to be able to carry out their economic activities and realize their potentials in life and be happy. And what happened? You saw La Republique use military flying helicopters in the air, shooting the people and killing them. So the terrorism here was practiced by La Republique. So La Republique is a terrorist state. Again, behind La Republique, you see the French. So the French was using La Republique in perpetuating terrorism in Ambazonia. If you go deep into it and check the stories of all the other African countries, you will also realize that no genuine peace-loving African tribe or group has gotten up suddenly and picked up arms to go and cause trouble. Rather, what you have seen is that they are promoted, again, if you investigate the details, by foreign powers who use one group to subjugate another to extract the resources. So, for example, let me take Mali as an example. The reason why the southern government of Bamako got up against the French is because they realized that the so-called terrorist group in the north that was fighting against the central government was being sponsored by the French, equipped by the French, advised by the French. There were military advisors among the French with those so-called terrorists in the north of Mali. And then the French were also giving advice to the southern so-called government, just like they're doing to Ahijo, to Boya and his government. And the two groups were fighting each other. So France was with one hand, right hand, promoting the terrorists, the so-called terrorists in the north. With the left hand, they're supposed to be sponsoring the southern group, and they were fighting and killing the Africans. The Africans are being killed. And then in the area where you had the so-called terrorists, that is a resource-rich, mineral resource-rich area where the French were using the terrorists to protect their agents to be extracting those resources. That is what it's all about. And then a French minister said, any African country that tries to produce its own money will be punished with terrorism. Now, if your brains work, think for a moment. What did he mean by will be punished by terrorism? Now, you know that the French says in that agreement that we talked about that Ahijo signed in 1959, it says France will print the money of Francophone African countries. And in return, Francophone African countries had to keep all of their money treasures in the French treasury, like keeping your money in your money in your bank account, keep it all in the French treasury to run the French government service free without interest. It had to be 100% initially, then later on they increased it to 65%, and now it's 50%. So now, like Mali says that they're looking, Mali said they're printing their own money, the Sahel countries. And then the Senegal says they are going to look into creating their own money. When this minister says if any African country tries to print its own money, they will punish them with terrorism, what did he mean by that? It is basically because it is the French who fabricate the concept of terrorism in Francophone Africa. And there are blatant examples. Even in Chad, recently when they killed Debbie, you know, the French agreement to renew the Franc CFA had to last for almost 60 years. And so remember, they signed the agreement in 1959. It expired in 2019. And the Central African presidents were meeting in Yaoundé to decide what to do next, whether to make their own money. And to their surprise, when they arrived, suddenly they saw the French Minister of Economy show up, and Christine Lagarde, who was in charge of the International Monetary Fund, showed up. You know, those banks, the World Bank is the United States produces the president of the World Bank, and a European country, either France or Germany, will produce the president of the International Monetary Fund. At the time, Christine Lagarde, who is a French lady, was the president of the International Monetary Fund. They suddenly showed up in this meeting of Central African presidents, and Debbie, who was recently killed, was shocked. He said, we thought we were African brothers who were meeting to decide whether we want to continue this monetary financial agreement with the French. How come these Africans, these Europeans are here? We cannot speak as brothers. So he got angry and left that meeting at night and returned to N'Djamena. He also said that one time when he was trying to make sure that there was true revolution of power based on the constitutional agreements that were signed, the French advised him to rig elections and stay in power. So the French fabricated a so-called military uprising in Chad and claimed that he went to this fight and that's how he was killed. So the rest of the world thinks Idris Deby, there was an uprising against him and he went to fight, but basically it was a camouflage by the French to kill Idris Deby. Then they got what they call his son, who is basically a son that he raised in his house, and imposed him as a military person in Chad, and Macron went to install him in power. So you have a military government in Chad that Macron went to embrace and install, while at the same time rejecting the military governments that took over in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Niger. And the reason is because he is the one putting this small boy in Chad in office, the military boy that he can control. And in those other countries, they are rejecting the French. And so France is the one fabricating what is called terrorism in all across Francophone Africa. And I will go further. They even found out that among the Boko Harams, the so-called popular Boko Harams that have killed lots of people, even more than Al Qaeda, they found whites with long noses who were advising them, who painted their faces white. And when they talked to them, they realized that they were French counselors, advisors. If you remember, Boko Haram says they are against Western education. They don't like their children to go to school and learn the Western standard of education with mathematics. But among Boko Haram, you find very sophisticated military equipment, tanks operated by modern information technology and computer science. So, how can ignorant people who don't want school education suddenly know how to operate sophisticated military tanks that require modern technology and information technology to operate? Basically, the Boko Haram was the creation of the French. And if you go and find out where they are supposed to be located, that is the northeastern part of Nigeria that used to belong to Cameroon, actually, to former British Southern Cameroon. They found out that in that Zambiza forest, there's a lot of resources that the Western powers want to exploit. So they created the ideology of Boko Haram to bring their forces, claiming that they are helping these regional countries fight terrorism in order to be exploiting the country. So, indirectly, what I'm saying is that the Africans did not suddenly mutated into terrorists. The concept of terrorism was imported and introduced into Africa by Western powers. In this case, we're talking for Francophone Africa, the French. They are the ones sponsoring it, advising, and carrying it out. As for that French minister said, any country that tries to create its own money, they will punish them with terrorism. That is what is truly going on. And from that perspective, you can now explore what is Tinubu and Yadema of Togo and the man of Ghana saying in this conference where they say they want to bring an African solution to terrorism across Africa. We can explore that further. Correct. So now coming back to this so-called conference that Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, is supposed to have called in collaboration with the United Nations. He says that it's an African initiative and run by African to solve the concept of terrorism across Africa. But what do you realize? The only few countries in there are Nigeria, Togo, and Ghana. If you are talking of something that will expand to involve all of Africa, which they're calling the Abuja process, it should include all African countries. South Africa would have been there. Tanzania and everybody else, they would have been involved in discussing all of these things. Why are these the only three? Then you realize that the people who footed the money are Qatar, which is an Arab nation, the Philippines, and I think it was Bangladesh, the other nation. So those are the only countries that put the money. So if it was out of African initiative, out of Africa's concern, wouldn't Africans put the money to solve their problems by themselves? What I'm trying to say is the initiative did not originate from Africa. It was shoved down the throat of Tinubu and Iyadema and the man of Ghana to bring up something claiming that they are putting an African initiative. That's what is going on there.
Wow, thank you. So I was going to say that if this you already mentioned that this is an African initiative, but the sponsors are Middle Eastern and Asian countries,
Mhm.
mostly from Middle East and Asian countries. Um, like you mentioned that it was shoved down Tinubu. Do you think Tinubu and the leader and Ghana are bidding the are doing the bidding for the Western powers, is particularly France here,
Correct.
because those countries that are part of the ECOWAS, about three or four of them in past 2 years have made their stance against French control very clear. Do you think they are trying to use the Ghana and Nigeria in particular, who are the other big nations who can fight this anti-French
Correct.
sentiments that is going on within the ECOWAS? Do you think they are
Exactly.
using them to do the bidding?
Correct. If you remember when Niger evicted the French, this so-called association of countries like the West African Association of Countries, the Central African countries, and all the so-called regions, aside from the so-called African Union, which is led by Macky Sall, who is a former Chadian prime minister. Then the West African countries claim that, oh, they are against any military takeover and they are going to fight against Niger. And they impose
Mm-hmm.
sanctions on Niger and all those countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger at the instigation of the French. What happened then I don't know, for those who care to follow carefully, Tinubu did not win elections in Nigeria. They were rigged in his favor, and there are so many different things that you can talk about. So
Mm-hmm.
the Niger and Mali said if Tinubu and his group attempt to fight Niger, they're going to spill the beans and release all the details of what happened truly in the presidential elections in Nigeria. Then the northern Nigerians, that's of Nigeria, the Muslims, are ethnically related to the people of Niger. They said they will not agree to allow Nigeria to go and fight against the people of Niger. So basically, Tinubu's initiative, and at that time, Ivory Coast was in that group. But you notice that in these three, Ivory Coast is not in there. All you have is Nigeria, Togo, and Ghana. So the West African initiative collapsed because of the threat of Nigerians in the north, the Muslims, not to collaborate with Nigeria to go and fight the people in Niger, and because of the threat to spill out details of what happened, and that died. So this is still another method that those same individuals are trying to use to come back and get back to getting in control and getting rid of people that they don't like by claiming that this is an African initiative. And they're trying to use
Wow.
Tinubu as Nigeria being the biggest country. And then they have some few individual countries trying to collaborate with them. It is still another way that the French are trying to use to come in and creep in and claim that it's an African thing. And in order to cover it up, they claim that the financing came from Qatar and from those Philippine nations. If you remember carefully, even in the fight between Israel and the Palestinians, you will hear that Qatar is the negotiator and financing things. So that is under the instigation of Western countries that are trying to cover their footsteps so that they will not be seen. And that is truly what is going on here. So that was another initiative by Macron and his collaborators trying to use Tinubu and the others.
Wow. So do you, that means in all you're saying, these have no bearing on bringing any solution to terrorism that we clearly understand are largely sponsored by some countries in the West, in most cases France, and also this all this internal stirring of conflicts that have been going on with some African nation who wants to have proper independence, who wants to cut ties or cut control from these Western countries, some Western nations. So with all these summits that Tinubu has decided to hold now, and it's clearly from explanation and all we can see is that they are doing the bidding for France in this case to try and see how they can infiltrate these ECOWAS nations that have decided to remove France as their colonial masters, as their control, as the power that is controlling them to take charge of their lives and their own destiny. Um, so,
Right.
given all of these things that are happening in Africa, and considering that they still set us up to fight each other over their own interest, do you see this has any way, this is for the global Africa, like not global Africa, for the Africa as a continent, because this has is happening in so many different areas where the French will sponsor an opposition party, or you have Western power sponsoring internal unrest. They tried it in, we know how the Ugandan genocide came into happen. There was also something very similar in Ethiopia. They have done everything because Ethiopia was really never colonized. They have done so many different things to create internal political tension we saw all the Muslim brothers in Egypt at some point. All these things are happening within Africa that are being stirred by these Western powers. You see us as Africans coming to a realization that we cannot go and fight our brothers or kill our brothers to,
Correct.
create a ground for Western exploitation and control.
Correct. So, I mean, there's just so much to unpack on to answer that question, that some of the things that I may say, people may be shocked and surprised how I came about them. And the reason is partly because this is something that I've investigated for years, gathered a lot of information continually. So I'm speaking out of knowledge of more detailed information. Again, like I said, knowledge is power. So if we are well informed and see who is doing what and stand up as one man, these guys have no power. That is why when the West African countries claimed that they were going, the West African Association of West African countries were going to go after Mali, Niger for a military coup, and the northern Nigerians, the Muslims in northern Nigeria, said they will not allow the Nigerian government to go and fight against their brothers in Niger, the thing died. So Ivory Coast and Ghana could not carry their troops to go and fight against Niger, which is just north of Nigeria, because the Nigerians stood as one man and said, "We're not going to let you fight our ethnic brothers." And so once we recognize who is eating our lunch, and we stand up as one man, these guys will literally vanish. And that's what happened in Senegal too. When the Senegalese diagnosed that it is the French causing their problem, and they stood up against French interests and businesses, they had to force Macky Sall to let the elections take place, and he was kicked out and he left Senegal. And then Senegal has a new government, which they will keep trying to again change. So coming back to answering this question, you realize that Tinubu is collaborating with what is called the United Nations. They had a so-called United Nations representative who also spoke in that conference. Now, that organization called the United Nations, we all have a common experience with who they are. If you look around the world, wherever they have been, there has been no peace. It was created after the wars. It mutated from the League of Nations that was created after the First World War, was mutated into what is called the United Nations after the Second World War, to prevent war among humans and bring peace to the earth. But everywhere you see those white painted military tanks of the United Nations, there's always been war and killing. And the longest service of the UN has been in Congo, Kinshasa, in Zaire, where millions of Zaireans have been killed, but the UN keeps roaming around. And at one time, a military tank of the United Nations somersaulted or fell over a ditch, and gold came out of the military tanks. That means they were camouflaging and pretending to be keeping peace while they were smuggling away the gold of the land, besides plane landing and carrying this away. And recently, if anybody cared to follow, the people of Congo got angry and burned a United Nations office in Congo because it serves them no benefit. What I'm trying to say is that the United Nations serves no useful purpose as far as peace is concerned on earth. You can see it in the issue between Israel and the Gaza Strip. You will hear Guterres say, "We're trying to make sure we give the people more water to drink," the people in Gaza, while all of their property has been destroyed and the people have been killed, children are being decimated. So the United Nations is just a rubber stamp organization that was created by some individuals behind the scenes. And the purpose of the United Nations was to bring all the governments together so that these people behind the scenes can control those governments. And the General Assembly is everybody sitting together, but you know that the decision-making body is the UN Security Council, which includes the United States, Britain, France, Russia, and China. The major decision makers are primarily the United States, and then usually Britain goes with them. The French, once in a while, will pretend they have some level of autonomy, but they will move along with the United States. As for Russia and China, for any resolution to pass, the US will lobby them behind the scenes to abstain. So you will hear that Russia or China abstained, and then the US voted. And basically, the major decision maker in there is the United States. Now, just to give you one example, I'm talking still about the United Nations. Recently, everybody with this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, everybody says the Palestinians need to have their own state. U.S. foreign policy has always been that it will be a two-state solution. So a resolution was presented to the United Nations less than 3 weeks ago, where the UN was going to vote to approve a Palestinian state so that the Palestinian Authority can sit in the United Nations not as an observer, but as a member state. And guess what? The United States vetoed it. And you only need one veto for a resolution not to pass. So you see the contradiction. For years, U.S. governments, regardless of whether it's Republican or Democrat, says that they are for a two-state solution between the Palestinians and the Jewish state of Israel. And then an opportunity comes in the United Nations to vote for the Palestinian state at the peak of this crisis, where thousands upon thousands are being killed, particularly innocent children, babies, and women. The very US that has been saying this vetoes it. So, how do you reconcile the two ideas? The thing is, because the United Nations is just being used. The United States nations has no sovereignty, it does not have any power. And when the US wants to go to war, like they did in the case of Iraq and Afghanistan, the US just informs the UN that they are going to war. They don't even need an approval from the United Nations. They just tell the United Nations, just rubber stamp this thing. We are going us to war and we're taking our allies. So the United Nations has no useful purpose and it's just being used by these people behind the scenes. And it was created to bring all the governments together so they can easily manipulate them. Now, the people who created the United Nations, this is again a lot of detailed information here, are the very people who created the State of Israel, which came about in 1948, which is the big reason why the State of Israel never ever respects any resolution from the United Nations, because the United Nations is owned by their godfathers. Again, let me say what I just said. The State of Israel never ever respects any resolution that comes from the United Nations, because the United Nations was created by the forefathers of the State of Israel. So you can go back and find out they would disregard it and say we don't care about it. And so anyway, which is one of the reasons the U.S. Did not agree with the Palestinian state becoming a state, because they didn't want to make the State of Israel angry. So those people who founded the United Nations, they control these so-called members of the UN Security Council. They control the United States. So the US is their army. They use it to punish whoever they want to punish around the earth. That is actually the fact of what is going on. I personally believe to camouflage, they instructed Qatar and those Eastern countries to say they sponsored an event in Africa led by Tinubu, Togo, and Ghana. If it was a genuine African initiative, all other African countries of significance would have been there. South Africa would have been there. Rwanda would have been there. Not to mention Kenya. There is Al Shabaab in Kenya there and Somalia doing mischief. So why would only Tinubu, Togo, and Ghana bring out a terrorism initiative that will affect all of Africa, and they call it the Abuja process? It is just a smoke screen that they're using to cover. It's the people behind the scenes that we're just trying to use them to bring them back to claim that they're fighting terrorism, and then the French will follow that route to get rid of the people in the Sahel that are trying to object them controlling the resources of that land. That's just a cover up.
Wow. Knowledge is power, and you can only get this on the horizon. And this is just such a brilliant information and conversation that we need to be aware, so that as we go out and we are seeking for friends and partners, as the president is always saying, we go with knowledge and understanding. And in the streets of politics is based on interest and influence and power. So we have to have the knowledge, we have to have the understanding, because we are a people and we to fight to the expected end, to gain our total liberation and be part of the globe, or the globes of countries of nation in the world. We need to understand how and why countries behave and do things the way they do in terms of international relations. and actions. And this is just brilliant. And now we'll just go into Ambazonia facing um, struggles, because we have come a long ways, going to 8 years now, or if not 8 years already. It'll be by October will be 8 years that we have pick up arms. We started by picking up green plants and just asking to be respected as a people, and to be recognized, as to be given the same opportunities as people. And we saw what happened, and we've come a long way in this our struggle and our fight for liberation. We have come a long way. We have resisted the occupier, the annexer, which is La République du Cameroon, and in extension France. We are not afraid to mention these things, because this is the fact, this is the truth, and this is the reality. And for us to fully face our fight, we should not be afraid of the full reality of what it is. Now, given all of this, we have our systems and a government that's in place executing our self-defense strategies at home fronts. And there's different things going on. And we also have ABC Amber TV, and which is magnifying or amplifying Ambazonian voices. We have the draft coming up. You know, we have the draft season, which is going on at the moment. Given all of these different things that we have to do, and as the motto of the Horizon or the Amazonian woman, we are staying the course. And the only way to stay the course is to ensure that we keep resisting. How, in your own perspective, should every Ambazonia, and given everything that's happened and the current state of the fight, participate in this draft season?
Correct. So this is basic common sense. If you live in your neighborhood, in your village, and you see a danger, somebody who comes in to threaten the life of the people and kill the people, everybody comes together to help. Everybody comes together to fend off or fight off the enemy who has come to destroy us. And so, in this case, the yearly initiative of encouraging Amazonians to support the resistance. Remember, the Amazonians have not taken up arms to fight La République du Cameroon, used by the French. Amazonians are self-defending themselves. Like La République sends these their troops that were trained to perpetuate French control over us to come into our communities, burn our villages, kill our people, rape the women, to defend themselves. So we encourage Amazonians to do their best as well. And everybody is not the same. People have different abilities and capacities. And if you have a clear conscience, you will know what you can do, and we encourage everybody to do their best. So if you have money, contribute. If you don't have money, whatever you can do, do. If even the only thing you can do is pray, pray. And if you are on the ground, that means if you are abroad and you can contribute, like we said, either by giving money or by prayer or both, do so. If you cannot contribute by giving money, if you are on the ground and you see our people who are genuinely suffering, who either a widow of a fallen Amazonian hero, or somebody who was killed, try to help them, give them food, give them what you have, and to assist each other. When we become each other's keeper and help each other in this cause, eventually we will win as one. And that's what is going to happen. Because at the end of the day, these individuals that I've just mentioned will not carry the day. We will defeat them. As knowledge increases and as time goes forward, they will diminish in their control of the earth. I said the earth because they control all over, all across the earth. They will diminish and they will lose control. And that is the benefit of the hope that we have, which is going to be actualized, that we will win. And actually, we have already won. So when we go as one, do the best you can. I don't know what I can tell you to do. If you have the money, Instead of letting it sit in the bank doing nothing, you can contribute it to help those who need the money to do something effective to fight for the Amazonian people. If you don't have the money, like my grand aunts used to do, they will bring granules from the village to show that they love me. Give whatever you have, share whatever you have with each other. And if you don't, at least you can pray. And I encourage, pray and do what you can do. And at the end, we win together as one man. That's what I would say.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Lobati. Thank you for always creating the time to join us on the horizon. It's so much appreciated. So, as we prepare to round up the show today, what are your final words and statements as we prepare for the end of the program this evening?
Correct. So I will encourage our people. I know that we're all not where we can find a lot of information, but a lot of these things that I'm telling you are free. They're online if you have the time. Instead of being entertained with sports, music, or whatever else, if you have the time, you can research all these things and you'll find them. It's free. And I think that if we are well informed to know who is eating our lunch and how they are doing it, then we will know how to fend them off and how to fight. But if you don't know, they'll kill you in the process. And they will bribe you, bribe some of us, deceive some of us. We are vulnerable. We need money for, nobody has enough money. We need money for different things. They will come and, dangle some money in front of you and deceive you that they will give you. And you fall in and to serve their interest and they bought you off and you're gone. But if you are well informed and you have a strong character, you know what you stand for, you will resist them and these guys will be exposed. As soon as they have been exposed, France leaves Cameroon and La République leaves Amazonia because La Republic has never done anything good for us. They have dismantled all our infrastructures that we had before we joined them. You can name them, whether it was Tico Airport, it was Victoria Seaport, and Tico WAF, and our CDC, and Public Works Department, and Cameroon Bank, and you can keep naming them, WADA, and so forth. You will not be able to come to an end. You will forget something. La Republique dismantled all of them so that we will forget and miss our identity. And as soon as you know all of these things and you remember and stand firm and are not compromised in your conscience by little bribes by La Republique, eventually they'll go, Bia is going to die. It doesn't matter how long they pretend he's still alive. They can even bring a body double. Remember that 20th May is around the corner. What is today is the 20, what is it, 26. So it's just like 4 more days plus 20, so just above 3 weeks they're going to have 20th May. I'm not very sure that that old man is going to show up again and stand behind something and go around calling himself president at the Boulevard de Vengme. But even if he did, sometimes they can bring a body double. Remember, Saddam Hussein used to have several body doubles. Bia has body doubles that look like him that they can dress up and pretend that he's Bia, who is not him. But whatever the case, the body doubles will not last forever, and eventually he's going to go away. And we have to be vigilant because even if he goes, people should not rejoice that the wicked government of Bia has crumbled because the French will resurrect somebody else that they will continue to use to perpetuate the mischief they've been doing in our land. We have to know who is who and who is being used by the people eating our lunch and killing our people and have perpetuated genocide among us for all these years. La République, used by the French, have killed over 60,000 Amazonians. Remember, I mentioned that during the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the very French used Ahijo and killed over 500,000 Bamilekes and Bassas. They have killed over 60,000 Amazonians. We need to know that and don't let them compromise you with some little money because each of us is going to die. And that money is not going to keep you alive forever. So don't let them deceive you and you compromise your birthright and your conscience for a morsel of bread. So that's the little thing that I can share with our people.
Wow. Thank you very much. That's much appreciated and really, really grateful to have you on the horizon and for always creating the time. And I always say, I hope to have you again soon on the Horizon, the voice of the Amazonian woman. And I also want to thank all our viewers who always join us on this show, those at home front and those around the world. Thank you for your participation, your comments, and for watching the program. I hope you have learned something today because it was a depth and educative program across different subjects which we have talked about. The terrorism summit going on in Abuja, that went on in Abuja, and also the French ambassador visit to Bamenda and what that means for Amazonia and why they have that right to make such statement, to go to Amazonia and claim to develop, when we know for over 60 years, for 65 years now, they have not been able to do any development whatsoever. Why now? Why the statement? To distract our people from the cause. But yes, we are here on the horizons to remind our people that we are staying the course. We are fighting unto our total liberation, that there is nothing La République, France, or anyone else would do that would deter us from the goal. And the goal is complete liberation of our territory so we can live as a people, one nation, one anthem, one flag, and enjoy our God-given, land and territory, and live a better place, a better environment for our children's children to live and function. Thank you once again for joining us on the horizon. Until next week, Friday, stay tuned on ABC Amber TV. Bye bye.
The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft, lies the power to liberate Amazonia.
Hello, Ambazonians. I woke up this morning really angry. As I looked, I saw green, red, yellow. I was wondering what kind of country is this, which says that red is its middle color, cuts across from the top to the bottom. That means it's a bloody country. A country will ever know blood as its middle name. That country is a country of hyenas, bloodsuckers, blood-thirsty, blood drinkers, vampires. The worst thing that happened in our history was for us to unite gentle people, civilized people of the southern Cameroon Ambazonia to go and join animals, wild animals who cannot have a conversation, with anyone, who don't have friends, who don't know what the term brother or sister means. We ask a question, they slaughter us like pigs, they kill us anyhow with total impunity. They think it's their right to kill us. I was angry this morning. Are you angry? Are you wondering how long this will go? Why this must end? Or you are worried about some little things between you and somebody here and there? Are you going to channel this anger? Are you going to draft? Are you coming for the federal draft? Are you coming to empower us to do whatever is humanly possible to separate ourselves from these barbarians? Let me say this. If you refuse to draft for Amazonia, it is a draft for La Republic. That's the truth. It means you have drafted for La Republic. If you don't empower us to fight this monster, these animals who don't even qualify to be our neighbors, they don't qualify. They don't qualify to be our neighbors, talk less of brothers, deceivers. Yeah. The best place that these people belong is to, if it were possible, if I were the God Almighty, I will roll them up together like a carpet and throw them in the abyss. That is where La République du Cameroon belongs, and all of them. Animals, not fit to exist in the kingdom of humans. Talk less of being our neighbors. And some people say we should cohabit with them. Are you kidding me? If you don't draft for the federal government, if you don't draft now to empower us to fight this fight to the end, you are excused excuses notwithstanding, you have drafted for La République du Cameroon. You have empowered them to kill us and take us as their slaves forever. You see, they are ambassadors of evil coming to our zone, to the Midland zone, to Abakwa. Because whatsoever Abakwa says, that is what goes in Ambazonia. See them coming. So what will you do this Saturday for the draft? What will you do? Can somebody tell me what you propose to do? To stay home, to withhold your currency, your money, your draft, to find some reasonable excuse, which will be finally unreasonable. This Saturday, April 2024, all roads lead to the Midland draft. If you are not coming or you are not drafting, you have done evil to yourself, to your people, and to generations to come. Because this is the assignment of our lifetime. The assignment is to draft, draft, draft. This is Ambazonia versus the world. Draft, draft, draft. Your might is needed, like those of our ASA. Those of our ASA. For they are betting this with their lives. Let us bet with our substance. I'm waiting for you. The time is 8 p.m. Ambazonia time. This Saturday, April 2024. Be there. Share this video. Share this audio. Invite somebody. Talk to somebody to think again. Talk to somebody who wants to stay aloof, who wishes to draft and is thinking not to draft. Tell him that we either draft for our people or we draft for La République. Let them make a choice. God bless you, for I and my family will draft, whether it is rain or shine, whether it is convenient or inconvenient. There is a war to fight. There is a victory to win. This is it. Thank you for coming. God bless you. Hello, Ambazonians. I woke up this morning really angry as I looked.
The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft, lies the power to liberate Amazonia. The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft, lies the power to liberate Amazonia.
Hello, Ambazonians. I woke up this morning really angry. As I looked, I saw green, red, yellow. I was wondering what kind of country is this, which says that red is its middle color, cuts across from the top to the bottom. That means it's a bloody country. A country will ever know blood as its middle name. That country is a country of hyenas, blood suckers, blood-thirsty, blood drinkers, vampires. The worst thing that happened in our history was for us to unite gentle people, civilized people of the southern Cameroon Ambazonia to go and join animals, wild animals, who cannot have a conversation, with anyone, who don't have friends, who don't know what the term brother or sister means. We ask a question, they slaughter us like pigs, they kill us anyhow with total impunity. They think it's their right to kill us. I was angry this morning. Are you angry? Are you wondering how long this will go? Why this must end? Or you are worried about some little things between you and somebody here and there? Are you going to channel this anger? Are you going to draft? Are you coming for the federal draft? Are you coming to empower us to do whatever is humanly possible to separate ourselves from these barbarians? Let me say this. If you refuse to draft for Amazonia, it is a draft for La Republic. That's the truth. It means you have drafted for La Republic. If you don't empower us to fight this monster, these animals who don't even qualify to be our neighbors, they don't qualify. They don't qualify to be our neighbors. Talk less of brothers, deceivers. Yeah. The best place that these people belong is to, if it were possible, if I were the God Almighty, I will roll them up together like a carpet and throw them in the abyss. That is where La Republic du Cameroon belongs, and all of them. Animals, not fit to exist in the kingdom of humans. Talk less of being our neighbors. And some people say we should cohabit with them. Are you kidding me? If you don't draft for the federal government, if you don't draft now to empower us to fight this fight to the end, your excuses notwithstanding, you have drafted for La Republic du Cameroon. You have empowered them to kill us and take us as their slaves forever. You see, they are ambassadors of evil coming to our zone, to the Midland zone, to Abakwa. Because whatsoever Abakwa says, that is what goes in Ambazonia. See them coming? So what will you do this Saturday for the draft? What will you do? Can somebody tell me what you propose to do? To stay home? To withhold your currency, your money, your draft? To find some reasonable excuse, which will be finally unreasonable. This Saturday, April 2024, all roads lead to the Midland draft. If you are not coming or you are not drafting, you have done evil to yourself, to your people, and to generations to come. Because this is the assignment of our lifetime. The assignment is to draft, draft, draft. This is Ambazonia versus the world. Draft, draft, draft. Your might is needed, like those of our ASA. Those of our ASA. For they are betting this with their lives. Let us bet with our substance. I'm waiting for you. The time is 8 p.m. Ambazonia time. This Saturday, April 2024. Be there. Share this video. Share this audio. Invite somebody. Talk to somebody to think again. Talk to somebody who wants to stay aloof, who wishes to draft and is thinking not to draft. Tell him that we either draft for our people or we draft for La Republic. Let them make a choice. God bless you, for I and my family will draft, whether it is rain or shine, whether it is convenient or inconvenient. There is a war to fight. There is a victory to win. This is it. Thank you for coming. God bless you.
The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft lies the power to liberate Ambazonia.